Horizon channel, so much you reaction. This is why didn't the USA also scramble Africa? By the channel History Matter, sorry, short animated documentary. So, the USA, despite being a great power, didn't carve up Africa. So why not? Okay, I think when the USA actually became great power, most of the colonies, let's just say, were colonized, right? And I think USA was much busier in their own continent, right, with the Texas, Mexico, things like that, right, trying to take places, more and more Western places. But yeah, when the USA became the USA that we know of today, I think it was already too late, right? Most of the colonies were already colonized. I think it was that reason, but I don't know if there is more to it besides that. Obviously, History Matters will tell us in very short period of time, just 3 minutes. So yeah. Remember, if you like my reaction, don't forget to like, subscribe. So I know which type of videos to react to more. Check out the reaction. There's a link in the description. Check out the cards, everything cards, and yeah, let's read it.
The late 19th century wasn't great for Africa or Africans. It was when Europeans looked south and decided that Africa was filled with all this unclaimed land and opted to change that. The great powers all met in Berlin in 1885 and hashed out some rules for grabbing whatever they could. One great nation which attended this conference yet took no part in the scramble for Africa was the United States of America.
Wait a minute, what? There was an actual meeting in Berlin or whatever? There, every great power, gathered together. Yeah, let's take places from Africa. Really? I didn't see that coming. I mean, I'm pretty sure by this point, lots of empires like Britain they already had places, right? Colonized places, right? So I guess by this point, colonizing was becoming more stronger and stronger. That's why they had the meeting to create rules to make sure there is not much friction there. Yeah.
America, which very easily could have laid claims to lands there if it wanted to. Which raises the question, why? Why didn't the USA take part in the scramble for Africa? Now, during the late 19th century, successive US presidents had very different opinions on whether the United States should build an empire or oppose imperialism as a matter of principle. Some called for the annexation of Cuba, Alaska, Santo Domingo and Hawaii, with only half of those actually happening. When the Berlin Conference opened, the United States was in an imperialism isn't for us mood, and so its representatives there proposed a different plan. Why don't we only partially carve up the continent, open its waterways to all nations, and make Africa a free trade area? The American ideas were promptly dismissed. However, the US did get some concessions in that the Congo would be open to all.
Hey, let's make the places free for everybody and create this kind of a really good business venture. Everybody's like, are you high? We are taking that shit for us.
International trade, which meant that unlike the parts of Africa under the control of the great European powers, the US would have at least some access. By the way, this idea of America just wanting to trade is a theme of late 19th to early 20th century US foreign policy. So with that, it was decided that Africa would be carved up, and the US opted out for several important reasons. The first was that it already had a lot of spare land which wasn't densely populated and had ample resources yet to be exploited. Plus, by the time the US was done integrating its westward lands, the scramble for Africa was over, meaning that if they wanted to build an overseas empire, they'd need to take somebody else's, an opportunity which would soon present itself. The second reason was Liberia.
Yeah, okay. Obviously, like I said, they already had places to conquer in their own continent, right? And there were disputes with Mexico, Texas, things like that. And people really don't realize this, but, I guess before 20th century, like 1800s, right? USA had a lot of resources in that place, basically. All the people came to, America, founded USA, and USA was a thing. Over time, it started to become economical powerhouse because how much resources were there, basically. And what their, free business, basically emphasis on free mentality, right? So lots of people also went to the USA for the business venture, right? Lots of people from Europe because of their free mentality, like say no to imperialism, right? Business, let's think about business. That kind of mentality sucked a lot of basically important minds, right? Who were just seeking some kind of business and fortune. So there are lots of resources there, oil and shit. The lands were rich. So before even the World War I starts, people, obviously USA wasn't the USA we know of today with all the advantage and all the power. But it still wasn't some weak country, right? It was still an economical powerhouse. Yeah, it wasn't some big empire before World War I, but it was still a big thing because of it. So they didn't need Africa at that point. They still had their own thing to take care of. And afterwards, like I said, every other European countries already colonized lots of places.
Liberia. Across the previous century, American patrons had helped to fund freedmen's journeys to Africa to found a territory for freed slaves. In 1822, this culminated in the creation of Liberia, which was sort of an American colony but also totally wasn't. As such, it just sort of sat in limbo. It eventually got sick of America ignoring it and it declared its independence in 1847. However, it maintained very good relations with the United States, and after this, alongside the Congo, the US had much of the access to Africa for missionaries and trade that it had wanted. The third reason was that American desire to spread its influence beyond its own borders was mostly limited to its neighbours in South America, all of this being under the Monroe Doctrine. This was a pledge by the United States to protect the Americas and any independence.
I heard of this doctrine, but yeah, the United States, like your country, but better. Hereby pledges the following. The New World is not your world. If a country here declares independence, you can cry and try to get it back. Too bad. In return, we'll leave you alone too. Oh, okay. So that's the Monroe Doctrine.
Protect the Americas and any independent state there from European expansion or coercion, providing that you exclude the British claiming the Falklands, Mexico being run by an Austrian briefly, and Venezuela ceding land to Britain. And so with that, the United States just sort of sat the scramble for Africa out. Much like their European cousins, the Americans were also interested in the resources and conversion of Africa. But unlike Europeans, Americans felt like they already had hegemony over two continents, and thus they had no desire to squabble over pieces of a third. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and a special thanks to my patrons: James Bisonet, Kelly Moneymaker, Sky Chappelle, Corsho Wolf, Jordan Longley, Adam Stalter, Jerry, Gustav Swat, Schwinn, Corey Turner, Anthony Beckett, Copper Tone, Shuenin, Spinning Three Plates, The McWhopper, and Charles I.
Yeah, sometimes in the last second something happens, but apparently not. So yeah, again, what is this image of? I'm pretty sure I've seen it before in this channel. But yeah. Alright, so I guess their decision to not colonize anything in Africa was kind of an important one if you really think about it. Because in World War I, right, where all the countries came to blow, America wasn't part of it because, I mean, America's like, what the fuck do we have to do anything with this? But imagine if they had colonies in Africa. There would have been a conflict, right? Even though Germany, Europe, France, all of their colonies in Africa and Asia was also fighting because they were fighting. European war became World War because of that. But because USA didn't have any colonies anywhere, right? They just set it out, right? Eventually, there would have been a friction if USA had any colonies in Africa, Asia, or whatever, right? So the history would have changed a bit if that had happened. Right, USA would have got involved. Now, the result would have changed? Yeah, probably not, right? Because I don't see USA basically aligning themselves with Germany in World War I. So the result would have been same, but yeah, another powerhouse, not as today, but still economical powerhouse would have joined much earlier in the war, and maybe Germany would have defeated much earlier than it did. I don't know, but yeah. Alright people, that was why didn't the USA also scramble for Africa, because they already had way too much shit with them in their continent. But the channel History Matters. If you like my Rickson, don't forget to like, subscribe, and I'll see you next time.